Hey, welcome to Keight Krafts. I'm Keight. Today I would like to share with you a Brewing Up Creativity kit from Inky and Scrappy. Yep, that's right. This is a kit that I received from my dear friend, Jamie, from Inky and Scrappy. Let's see if we can toss out the instructions and assemble this like an IKEA drawer. Let's get started. So, to preface this video, there was a Lawn Fawn challenge that I believe was called Coffee, Tea, and Sweets that I wanted to enter, but I really didn't have anything other than a small latte die, or stamp and die set, that I just didn't think was adequate. And then I remembered that my dear friend Jamie had sent one of her extra kits from her card class to me as a surprise. And I thought, geez, I could be such a brat right now and just pick and choose the pieces that I don't own, which is pretty much the whole kit. So with that being said, I'm just shuffling around the parts here to kind of get an idea of what's in the kit. Now there is something to do a separate card, but we're just going to do the shaker card. So to assemble this the way I normally do, without instructions, I'm going in with some Lumberjack plaid. Distress Oxide, and I'm just going to ink up the top of the frame because I want this to be kind of like a gradient cup, because I was going for a little more festive because this was more of a fall themed card. I wanted to add just a bit more, so I'm going in with some ground espresso for the bottom of the cup, and then that way I can darken it up a little bit. But first, I want to grab my Post-it note. Now, yes, I understand I have my Make Art Station, which is supposed to catch all the extra ink, but for some reason, I had it in my head that I needed a scrap piece of paper on top of this, even though it kind of defeats the purpose of my Make Art Station. So I'm just going in with that ground espresso and darkening up the bottom of the frame, careful not to put my fingerprints on it. And then I am going to take the little doily, which, from what I understand, the kit said this was a Spellbinders Scalloped oval die that was cut in half to make the doily bit. So we're going to go matchy-matchy with the cup and the doily, and I'm going to go in with some of that Lumberjack plaid. Now you can kind of see that it picked up some of that ground espresso, which is absolutely fine. That's just going to be like a little bit of a shadow. So since the ink is still kind of a little damp on my cup here, I'm going to go in with some frosted glass to give the frame a little bit more texture. Now, this is a new to me embossing powder. I recently showed a haul of a bunch of embossing powders that I got. I got 6 new ones, I guess. I think. I don't know. You'll have to go back and look and tell me, I guess, because sometimes I forget. So now that I've got all of that frosted glass embossing powder loaded up to the top of the frame, I'm going to melt that. And once that's all melted, you can see how it kind of gives it almost like a 3-dimensional look, like it's a frosted glass cup. So once I've got that down, since I don't have the die, and I don't have any of the dies from this kit, which was quite the challenge for me, I've never received a kit like this where I didn't have any of the pieces to cut more. And this has been on my list to get, one of these pieced together shaker dies, because I like coffee, I like tea, I like the Java and the Java likes me. Yeah, I'm not going to sing that. Anyway, I'm just cutting out a backside to my cup, because the cup part that she cut out for me, it wasn't exactly the vibe that I was going for. So I'm going to cut this down so it fits in behind the cup. That wasn't exactly how I was going to go about doing this shaker card. It was just kind of bumping as I was going along, I guess. And I had it in my head that I needed to make a backside of the card to be able to create this shaker. Because sometimes I struggle with making shakers and I get everything all together and nice, and then it comes time to lining everything up, and it just never works out for me. So we're going to try something a little bit different today, or at least I think it's different for me. So again, I'm going in with a bit of that Lumberjack plaid, what's left on my brush, and I'm just going to fade down to the bottom with that, just to kind of get rid of some of that white. And then we're going to go in with some more frosted glass, just to kind of give it a little bit more texture. So I'll dump that on top, and then once I'm happy with the amount that I've dumped on, I'll grab my little paintbrush and kind of scooch a little bit off the edge here, because that's where I need it to stick, and I don't want any gaps because I'll be using some shaker bits, and I don't want them to be falling out all over the place. So once I'm happy with how much I've taken off around the edges, I will make sure to scooch that all back into the can, because I'm accident prone, and it's not the first time that I've dumped a bunch of stuff all over my desk, which I have this past weekend, and it sucked. There was glitter everywhere. It was awful. So I'm going to heat this up, and you'll get to watch how it melts. It's like melting snow. I kind of like how this looks. Sorry it's a little out of focus, but there you got it. It's got a neat little texture to it, and when you put the frame on top, I have a bit of white still. So I'm going to kind of go over those edges with a bit more of the red, just to lighten it up. I didn't want it too dark because, again, the shaker bits will kind of cover some of it, but it does give it a little bit of interest, I think, with it lighter on the bottom like that. So I'm going to pop out the, not all of the release tape, but some of it, and then I'm going to throw some glue down because I'm accident prone, and my luck, I mess it up or something like that. So I'm taking the side that I left the tape on and kind of lining it up and having it go at that. And then I'll be able to take off the inner part, which I can save for something else. And I'm going to try and peel this guy off, but it didn't want to come off, so I'm going to take the sticky bit off and just leave it on my hand. And that might annoy you, but that'll come in handy in a little bit, and you'll see. You'll see where that bit comes in handy. And I don't want to lose it, and I don't want to get it stuck on anything, so I'm just going to leave it stuck to my hand, because sometimes I leave stuff stuck to my hand and think I lost it, and then it's like, oh, no, it's right there. So I'm going to take the acetate sheet that she sent with it, and I'm going to grab some 1/8 of an inch score tape, and I'm going to go around the edges so that way I can have some strong adhesive to hold my acetate to my little coffee cup. Now, I thought this kit was really neat. I mean, I've purchased like Spellbinders and Hero Arts and what was the other one? Oh, Pink and Main. I thought I'd try my hand at those because they're kits and they're exciting and it's kind of neat, and I mean they're all good and fun, but I'm picky about what I get. And I think the only subscription I have is for Scrapbook and Cards Today. They have a monthly kit that they send out where it's actually, I think, relatively decent for the price. But I can't complain with this surprise. I was quite astonished when I opened up my mailbox and saw a blue envelope with a bunch of stuff in it, and it was like, oh golly, what has she sent me now? So I think maybe it'd be fun. It would be a fun idea to cut a bunch of random stuff, add some cardstock, and say, here, I challenge you to make something. Maybe I might send some of my friends that soon. You never know. So, like I said, I wanted to go back in with some of those shaker bits, so I ended up dumping them all, well, most of them in, and then I think, that might be a little bit too much. So I dumped some of them back and then kind of scooch them all around back into the little cavern that I made. And I'm going to put the, pull the release tape off the one side so that way I can very carefully line that up. That way I don't have a lot of overhang. And try very hard not to lift that up and have bits flying everywhere, because that sometimes happens. And once I'm happy with how that's lined up, I will pull the release tape off the rest of that cup and then seal it nice and tight. So shake it around a bit. I'm happy with that. I think it looks good. So now for the whipped topping. I believe she said in the list of stuff that this was in, this was from the Cupcake Die, which I'm not sure what that one is. I'll have to look. I think it's probably maybe an older one. I don't know. I'm not too familiar with the piece together dies that Lawn Fawn has. They're stamps and dies, yes. But they're standalone dies like this, I'm not 100% sure. So once I've gone in with a couple of Copic markers to kind of turn that into some vanilla foam, I'm going to fussy cut the bottom half of this off so that way it'll fit into my cup there and not look like it's kind of overhanging the cup. And then I'll trim off that little smidge of acetate so it doesn't pop out like that. So I'll cut off a little bit more of the foam topping and I will wedge that in. And once I'm happy with that, I'll set that off to the side. Now, she sent a plaid piece of cardstock. At this point, I'd completely forgotten what the instructions said. So I ended up cutting it down just a smidge so I can put it on a piece of black cardstock so that I could have a black border around it because I'm loving the black borders. Just that little thin line of black border just to make it pop. I love it. So again, with the ground espresso, I'm going in with the doily here, and I'm darkening up those edges just to kind of keep it in tune with the cup and what's going on. And once I'm happy with how much espresso I've got on this, espresso, not espresso, Jiminy Cricket. I'm going to go back in with the Lumberjack Distress Oxide to kind of even out that blend. And then once I'm done with that, I'll admire my handiwork and figure out what I want to do next. So I figured I could add a little bit more interest to this, and I grabbed this tag set that I have by Lawn Fawn, and it's got this little tiny dot in it. So I'll load that dot onto my stamping block. I'll pull the doily off, and then I'm going to grab this Versamark ink and powder up my little doily with some anti-static powder tool and to make sure that the Distress Oxide ink is relatively dry. I will take the little dot and go around the edge of the scallop of the doily. That way we could add some super fine wow embossing powder and add a little bit of interest. So I will sprinkle that on there onto my coffee filter, and I will dump that all off. And I will grab my heat gun again, now that it is cooled off and I can use it, and I will heat emboss all those little white dots on my doily so that they don't go anywhere and they can stay and hang out with the coffee cup. So I'll bring my card base back in and I'll line everybody up. And once I've got an idea of where I need to put everything, and everything's got enough space on it, I'm going to go in with some Easy Runner tape. And then I'll grab a little bit of glue. Oh, I bet you just come here for the comic relief. And now I have a hard time pronouncing my words. I know, sometimes that surprise me. I say it every time, I know, and it's probably a running gag and an old joke, but I still laugh. You gotta laugh at yourself sometimes, right? You can't be so serious all the time. So once I'm lined that up and I'm happy with how I want it, I will go in with the cup, and you can see I've put some little strips of foam tape on the back of that. Those were just leftovers from another project. I didn't want the dollop of whipped cream to kind of droop down, so I thought I would add some foam to kind of keep it level with the rest of the cup. We'll toss a little dollops of glue on there and around the cup, and you can see now I've got that little empty space. So that bit that I had stuck to my hand this whole time, we're going to cut that down, and I'm going to use it to fill in that gap. Ta-da! See, I didn't lose it because it was stuck to me the whole time, annoying everybody. So once I'm happy with where that is at, I am going to align that the best I can and press it down. And adding some sequins, and that's it. There's my finished card. Again, a big thank you to Jamie from Inky and Scrappy for sending me this awesome kit of a bunch of stuff I didn't own. It was a lot of fun to try and put together. So, as always, you know what to do, and thanks for hanging out with me today. Take care.